Really good.
Okay, let's move on now from Bellator and move over to the UFC. This past weekend, UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot went down at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. Hey, I was there. Not there, but I was like 2 minutes away. I did look up on my phone how far away the Apex was, and it was like right down the street, which was nuts.
Why didn't you go watch?
It happened before mine. And in the main event, Mateusz Gamrot defeated Rafael Fiziev by TKO due to a knee injury in the second round, the official time 2:03 of round number 2. Omar, start us off this time for UFC. Give us your take on the first round, going into the second round, and ultimately how this fight had to finish due to a knee injury.
Yeah, so the first round I thought was really fun, really competitive. I mean, this was kind of what I would imagine what we expected, right? Fiziev was definitely trying to land the shots, was definitely trying to keep it standing. Gamrot was trying to find his entries to move in, but definitely wasn't afraid to scrap a little bit. But I thought Fiziev got the better of the exchanges when it came to it. His takedown defense I thought was great, as I think it normally is. I think man has a lot of strength in his hips that I think people sometimes underestimate because he's not necessarily a grappler. But that doesn't mean he can't stop a takedown, and he does a really good job of it. And the second round is my nightmare, dog. I'm gonna be honest. He threw that kick, and his knee just went clack.
It was his back knee, right? It was his base knee.
It's the base knee, and I got to be honest, man. I've attributed it for myself to me not turning my hips over a lot. So a lot of times I can put a lot more pressure on my ligaments and my knees than I should. And sometimes I've felt some sketchy things here and there when I kick, and I try to correct it and whatever else. But this right there that happened to Fiziev, that is my legitimate nightmare.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, man. All right, Mark, what are your thoughts on how this fight was panning out and then ultimately how it took this horrible U-turn?
Yeah, it sucks so much that we were robbed of this fight because it was really so fun for a round and a half. You know, watching all the different ways that Rafael Fiziev was trying to avoid these takedowns, like we were going to be in store for some crazy scrambles as that fight went on. And then as much as, yes, Fiziev did look like the faster and more dangerous striker, especially in terms of in combination, Gamrot was really landing some clean single shots with that right hand. So, you know, he was hanging there. Fiziev was combating the grappling. It was really shaping up to be a fun fight. I don't think I saw anything in it to move me off my take that I would pick Fiziev if it were to happen again. But unfortunately, his leg had other plans. He throws what honestly looked like a pretty regular kick for himself, but the posting leg just gave out. It's just one of those things. Of course, he collapses. Gamrot jumps on him, fight's over. You know, I've said this before. Sometimes I wish that injury wins and losses would have their own column on records, kind of like how draws and no contests do. Just because I hate that's a loss for Fiziev and a win for Gamrot. Because I don't really see how you could say Gamrot caused that one. Like, that was a freak injury. But, you know, it is what it is. It is a win for Gamrot. Fiziev hits the sidelines for what sounds like it'll be a year now. Tore his ACL, if for anyone who doesn't know.
I didn't hear, actually. Damn.
Yep. And, you know, I don't think Gamrot skyrockets up rankings or anything like that here, but obviously he stays in line for another big fight.
Yeah, man.
Bro, that's surgery and the whole deal. That is. Oh, I hope there is insurance, because somebody, one of the coaches at my gym had that happen to him where his ACL just was like, "Fuck you," and just went. And the bill, I mean, we had to do a couple of fundraisers because the bill for that thing is fucking crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Wow.
So. Yeah, man. Okay. Who do you think could be Gamrot's next opponent? Omar, why don't you start us off this time?
Sorry. All of a sudden was not prepared for that.
You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't have a great answer. I think that it's tough because it's not like he staked some huge claim here with this win. Like, you know, I don't think Dustin Poirier is sitting there looking at this and thinking, you know what, I should fight this Mateusz Gamrot guy. I mean, maybe Michael Chandler is if he doesn't end up fighting Conor. Dariush already fought him and beat him. I mean, maybe if Charles loses to Islam, they could make that fight. I know that's what Gamrot asked for, but I just don't feel like any of those seem super realistic at this particular moment. So I don't know. I honestly feel like the most realistic choice to me seems like having Gamrot and Arman Sarukian run it back, considering how close their fight was the first time and considering these top guys don't want to fight them. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of these guys says, you know what, sign me up. I'll be the guy that fights a Gamrot. But I just don't get the sense that like the Poiriers of the world are looking to do that.
Dude, I was thinking that during this fight and also when it wrapped up, I was like, man, Gamrot he just got this win technically over Fiziev. And now he's like, man, Gamrot's kind of arriving into the upper echelon of lightweight.
Yeah.
And then like Sarukian is going to eventually also. And these two guys are going to have to fight each other at some point again. But maybe it's going to be now. Maybe it's going to be now.
Yeah, and if Fiziev had won, I think it's easier. Like, I could much more easily see a Poirier or a Chandler being like, dude, this guy Fiziev's a nasty striker. Let me go have a war with this guy. Like, that seems like more their style. Whereas Gamrot, I feel like they're like, I don't know if that's what I need to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on.
Omar?
Yeah, back to you, Omar. Back to you.
So I also don't really think that Gamrot needs to really go anywhere. And so at this point, to be honest, I think the winner of Grant Dawson, Bobby Green would be a fun fight against Gamrot.
I thought you might say that.
I thought you might say that. Okay, in the co-main event at this UFC Fight Night at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas this past Saturday night, September 23rd, Bryce Mitchell gets back in the win column, defeating Dan 50K Ige by unanimous decision. The scorecards read 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28 all for Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, who came proper with his book of Psalms at the end of this fight. Mark, start us off this time. Bryce Mitchell, he is back in the win column after suffering a nasty loss to Ilia Topuria. What are your thoughts?
This was a really close fight. Neither guy would give in any moments of this fight. You know, Bryce Mitchell pushed through some big shots. Even at the end of the fight, you see Dan Ige still finding a way to get back on top, trying to counter the grappling of Bryce as time ticks away. You know, they both pushed it the whole fight. And I didn't even say Bryce gutting through a nasty cut on his eye or multiple cuts, whatever that was. His eye was a friggin' mess.
Yeah, it was.
But I do think Bryce won this fight. I think he won it pride style in a close one. And I think he won it 10-point must style in a close one. And it was very close. Dan Ige certainly gave Bryce some problems. Clearly, if you look at Bryce at the end of that fight. But I also think there's an argument to be made that Bryce won every round of the fight. I thought round one was really close. But if you asked me to call it for one guy, I'm going to say Bryce. I think he did take that round by the end of it. Round two was even closer, if that's possible. Bryce was down big early, but then he had a huge finish to end that round, so I don't hate scoring that round for him, too. I was really torn on what I thought of that one. And then he did win round three, so I'm totally content with him being the winner. It wasn't exactly the show-out type performance that I predicted it would be from Bryce Mitchell. I thought he would have more success in the grappling than he did. But I do think he gutted out a tough fight, got it done, and we know this, but the guy's grappling is so damn slick. He had a couple transitions and back takes, and the one where it seemed like Ige had gotten on top of him, and then he wrapped the figure four around Ige and slipped back to his back. I mean, he's a talented grappler for sure, and he guts out a big win here that he needed.
Nice, Omar.
Yeah, I would agree. He was another one that had a lot of explosive takedowns, and they're nothing wild, but he's able to change levels really quickly. He's able to get his hands around the legs really quickly. So it works for him, especially when he's in a bad spot. There were a few moments in that fight where I thought Ige had him kind of dead to rights, and Bryce Mitchell was able to utilize his wrestling and his grappling to, at minimum, survive. he didn't always end up on top or, in an advantageous position, but he also didn't continuously get his ass beaten. So, in those bad spots, I thought he made the best of it. But I also agree with Mark. I mean, I thought the first round was pretty clear for me when it came to Ige. I saw that they still gave Bryce Mitchell some people gave Bryce Mitchell 3 rounds. But I thought Ige had the first round, and then I thought the next two, Bryce Mitchell just outworked him. I thought there was a lot more control, a lot more takedowns, a lot more grappling. And I thought a lot of the damage that was really coming had come from the first round from Ige, and it just kind of slowed down as the fight progressed.
Yeah, man. I'm a fan of both of these guys, and I hate to see Dan Ige lose in his close fight. But Bryce Mitchell, I agree. I think he edged it out. His grappling is second to none in the featherweight division, and I'm excited to see what's next for him.
Second to Ilia Topuria, maybe.
That's true. Yes. But wasn't Bryce Mitchell had the flu for that fight?
Yeah.
Not that it would have made any difference.
Not
that it would have made any difference because Topuria is just next level, man. What do we think is next for these guys? Mark, let's start with the winner here. Bryce Mitchell, 145 pounds. He moves on with this victory. Who do you think could match up with him next at featherweight?
There's a million options, honestly, because not a single fighter in the featherweight top 10 is booked at the moment, outside of, I guess, Volk and Topuria, but they're not even technically booked as of yet. So you could go a lot of ways here. You could move him up a bit. He could fight someone right near him in the rankings. There's a ton of names that would be perfectly acceptable as an opponent. If you ask me to pick one, I think I'm going to say Giga Chikadze. Giga beat Caceres, but it was not easy. Fairly close fight. Bryce beat Ige, but it was not easy. Pretty close fight. And I think Giga's violence potential will test Bryce, and that Bryce's wrestling will test Giga. And I think we learn which guy is ready for the next level. So that's where I'll go.
Classic. Omar, any other thoughts?
I mean, no. I don't think I do have any other thoughts.
No. Approve.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's Bryce Mitchell versus the Devil, I think we're going to go down that path. That's fine.
Yeah. Jesus.
Did you hear him? Did you hear him take shots at Bisping?
Dude, I saw that clip of him on a podcast with Bisping.
I don't think he was on a podcast with Bisping. Bisping was talking about how he doesn't like religion in the octagon, or people getting super overly religious in the octagon or something like that. Something along those lines. And I think Bryce took offense to it and was like, well, the Bible says an eye for an eye, and I think Bisping would know best. And
Jesus.
Wow. When was this?
Recently, after the fight. Sometime between then and now.
Dude, I'm talking about, I saw this.
Didn't let him pray in there with he wanted Ige to pray or something. And
I think that's what
give him the mic.
Dude, I saw this clip. They must have been on some kind of podcast or YouTube show. Bryce and Bisping, and I think Anthony Smith. Does Anthony Smith and Bisping have a podcast together? I feel like I've seen a lot of clips of the two of them together.
Anthony Smith does have a podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
is that what it is? Is he with Bisping?
So he might be with Bisping now, because Bisping used to be with some comedian who doesn't do it anymore with him, and Anthony Smith might have taken over with him. Yeah.
Anyhow, then maybe Bryce was the guest, and it was a super fast clip that I saw, maybe 10, 15 seconds of Bryce putting Bisping on the spot.
It's Anthony Smith now, yep. But the Believe You Me podcast.
Believe You Me. And Bryce put Bisping on the spot. He was like, yes or no, did we evolve from apes? And Bisping was like, yes. And Bryce just flies off the handle. He's like, it's a lie. It's a lie from Satan. And Bisping is just laughing at him. And then the clip ends in a few seconds, but
yeah.
I'm
never gonna be fully on the Bryce Mitchell train. I can't. Flat earthers for me are just an immediate.
Is he a flat earther?
Oh yeah, he's
hard. Mike, he's gonna sit you down for a presentation and prove it to you.
Oh no.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Might pray with you before and after. Just
flat earthers are rough. I got no issue if you want to say you don't believe in evolution and 100%. You believe God put us. I'm totally fine with that. Believe what you want to believe in that regard. But the flat Earth thing is rough.
You can say what you want and believe what you want. Dinosaurs are real and it actually happened, so they can do what they want.
Dude, that's another
But-
big thing now. All these people that think dinosaurs are fake and that these bones get planted. Like,
It's
Oh,
not
dude,
that. It's
well,
not that new.
some have even thought that dinosaurs and humans roamed the earth together.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that
there's
was a
people
thing.
who would think that the Earth is only like 6,000 years old.
right?
Shit is out of control, dog.
Yeah.
They're just
I don't
too
know,
much for
man.
me.
I don't
I can't get on that train. I can
Conspiracy,
appreciate him as a fighter.
But it's
Otherwise,
also like
they're
with the
having a
dinosaur
day.
thing. It's like if you think that dinosaurs were fake, have been fake. What is the point? What's the conspiracy? So like these museums just make up
big fossil taking all the money.
taking
Big
all the money.
fossil.
You know, like the Museum of Natural History in New York is just making it up.
Yeah.
For what? Who knows?
All right, let's circle back.
Yeah, let's go back to mixed martial arts. Okay. Marina Rodriguez defeats.
Wait, can I match up Ige before
No,
we're out of
please
here?
do.
Just real
Thank
quick?
you, Jesus. Yes.
I think that Dan should be defending his ranking at this point in time. Obviously, tough loss, but he did take it. Two guys on their way up are Jack Shore and Lerone Murphy, and I would love to see Dan have to take on one of those guys.
Damn. Lerone Murphy would be a good one.
Yeah, man, for sure. Man. Okay. Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Your boy's fading because I think all this travel is catching up to me.
Get it together.
Sure.
Okay, women's strawweight division. Marina Rodriguez defeats Michelle Waterson Gomez by TKO in the second round. Many now calling for Michelle's retirement for the Karate Hottie. Omar, start us off with this one. What do you think about the performance of Marina Rodriguez and Michelle Waterson Gomez? And give us your thoughts on the whole should the Karate Hottie hang it up thing.
So I understand the reaction in the moment, right? I think Karate Hottie, the real issue is Waterson hasn't really been overly exceptional when it comes to the success of her UFC career, right? The thing at this point that I think you can really take away from her career is that she is a dog and she is a gamer and she is there to fight. She is not going to back down. She is not a pussy. But at the same time, there's a lot of times in her fights where she does get outworked, right? There are women who visibly have more talent in the fight IQ with their striking, right? Michelle Waterson is fantastic at mixing things up. She does a great job of changing levels, taking things down when she has to. She has great dexterity in her legs. She does have good combos and things like that, but she's never really been like the power striker, right? She's never had some of these things in her back pocket. And Marina Rodriguez can fucking crack. And she was landing big shots at Michelle Waterson. And like I said, man, Michelle Waterson is a dog, and she's not going to quit. She's not going to tell you she's done the fight. The end of the first round, the fact that this girl was smiling across the ring at Marina Rodriguez, she's a psychopath. She's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, man.
I think the referee, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I haven't seen the interwebs or anything like that. More than anything, I think the referee failed her. And then after the referee failed her, I think her corner failed her. And again, I might be in the minority here. There might be a lot of guys or a lot of people who are just like, fighters go out on their shield and shit like that. And I get it. There were at least 2 or 3 moments in that fight where she was in not bad position, but a position where it was a finishing position. She was turtled up. She was shelled over. They stopped Izzy for less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which was a horrible stoppage. And I'll say it till the day I die.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great, but you and I both know that it should never have gone to the level that it went with Michelle Waterson either to that point. Like, she was getting lit up back and forth, and she was not. I think the reason why there's an argument for it is because she kept moving away and things like that, but there were cumulative strikes there. There was a lot of damage that was happening. There were moments that when she was getting hit, her eyes were all over the place. She was not focused in one area. I didn't like it, man. I didn't care for the end of that fight, and then it continued in round 2. It just got more of the same. I had a real problem with how that fight was refereed, to be wholly honest with you.
Okay,
But,
Mark, your thoughts? Oh, you're not done. Okay.
no, that was about it. I just Michelle Waterson's a dog, man, and it's nothing against her, and she was there to fight, but just I think the referee's job is to save these fighters from themselves, and I don't think it was Michelle Waterson's job to quit.
Amen.
She is certainly a dog, and she's one of the primary girls I think of when I think about if the UFC had ever added an atomweight division for women, because she had been an atomweight in the earlier part of her career, and I think if the UFC had 105, that we probably would have seen her there, and that she would have more power at that weight. But I think that she is happy to be in the UFC and can hang with these women at 115, so that's where she has stayed. But I do think if the UFC had 105, we would have probably seen her there by now. But all of that aside, things started off so well for her here. She got the immediate takedown working on top, and it was like, wow, Michelle Waterson, right to the wrestling. Look at that. But as soon as Marina got back to her feet and got to work in the clinch briefly, it was already going south for Michelle. There was just a couple knees to the body that you could see hurt her. She was diving for takedowns already, got clinched again, and then really just got teed off on. It was knee and elbow city at every level, turned into a hell of a barrage. And as Omar said, she ate some crazy damage to stay in that fight the way she did. She never really wobbled to me. Like, she just kept eating continual damage. And for that reason, I didn't hate the ref letting it go. Like, even for me, I never found myself yelling at the TV, which I do often, being like, stop the fight, stop the fight. Like, I never hit that level. I was more like, this is going to get stopped any second. But then every time I thought that, I was like, oh, like, she's looking pretty aware. Oh, she's, like, separated for a second. So I feel like she just kept extending it. Like, I don't know. I didn't hate it. I wouldn't have minded if it got stopped, but I understood it not getting stopped. But either way, she didn't, as much as she was trying to act like she didn't have much left for round two. She tried for a takedown, got stuffed and mounted, and then it was over shortly after that. So to flip back to Marina, just an utterly dominant performance from her. Honestly, exactly what she needed to put some buzz back on her name after taking back-to-back losses, and she is right back on the tip of the tongue as a name to watch at strawweight.
Michelle Waterson, in spite of her record, she is quite a star. And she kind of came into the UFC with quite a bit of buzz, but looking at her record, she has had quite a speckled record pretty much ever since she came into the UFC. So she came into the UFC on the heels of losing her Invicta title. So she won the Invicta title, she defended it once, and then she lost it, and then she immediately went into the UFC right after that. She came into the UFC 12-4 as a pro. She won her first 2 UFC fights. Then she lost 2 in a row. Then she won 3 in a row, which was her longest UFC win streak. Then after winning 3 in a row, she lost 2 in a row. She won 1 and now has lost 4 in a row. So I sometimes I've wondered why she hasn't gotten to a higher place in her division. And I guess that's why. Because she never could string together more than 3 wins and generate that much buzz to march up the rankings in the strawweight division. But nonetheless, she will go down, even if she does retire or not. She will go down as one of the brighter spots in the sport and a bit of a personality and a bit of a star. Yeah. That being said, did we match these ladies up yet?
We did not.
Let's go toot and doot. Mark, start us off. Give us your take for the winner here, Marina Rodriguez.
For the winner, I think there is a really perfect opponent, but the girl would have to win to make it make sense, and that is Jessica Andrade. She is already matched up with Mackenzie Dern. If she ever did beat Mackenzie Dern, I think her and Marina Rodriguez would be a fantastic matchup that we haven't seen before. If Mackenzie wins that fight, Rodriguez has already beaten Mackenzie, so I guess you could say run that one back. I don't know if it would be my first choice. I think if Mackenzie did win that fight, I would pivot and maybe give it to like a Tabitha Ricci, someone who's on the come up like that. I know Marina's probably looking for a step up, or at least a big name, which is why I said Andrade initially. But Ricci is undefeated, other than a fight that she took up at 125, where she lost to Manon Fior, who had like an 87-inch height and reach advantage on her. So I do think Ricci deserves a big fight at some point here. So that would be another option for Marina as well. But I think the Andrade one would work out great.
Omar?
I like the Andrade one, to be honest. The real issue is she's lost to contenders at this point that are on their way up, that are ranked above her. She's fought a lot of the women that are below her, and she's beat already. But like Yan Xiaonan, for example, she won a split decision on her, but Yan Xiaonan is on the way up, not that far away from a title shot herself. So there's a lot of log jamming right now in this division right now. So I think that's, a fight against Jessica Andrade in the event that she wins is probably going to be your best bet.
Nice. Do you guys have anything to say about Michelle Waterson Gomez?
Yeah, I guess to comment on what you threw out earlier, I don't think I feel she needs to retire. I think that she won her last fight, personally, against Luana Pinheiro. So this is the first time I really felt like I was watching Michelle like, oh, shit, she's getting overmatched here. So I think I got to see that more than once before I start saying someone needs to retire. So I'll make what I feel is a fun fight for her at this point. Obviously, she has lost a few in a row. But I think her and Loma Lookboon would be a really fun scrap.
Ooh. Omar?
Damn, that was actually my pick. I didn't think you were going to go there. I didn't think anybody else had their eyes on Loma Lookboon. So, all right, yes, that was mine.
Nice. All right, gentlemen. Let's keep marching on here. Bryan Battle, round 2 submission over AJ Fletcher. Marco first.
This was an odd fight in that the guy who had the immense size and length advantage in this fight needed to get in tight to win the fight. Like in round 1, these two were mostly striking at range, and it was AJ Fletcher and his little 67-inch reach that was getting the better of it. He was managing the range really well, and Battle was too. He was almost kind of just content to work the teep exclusively, and I think he was trying to hope Fletcher rushed in and he could catch him on a counter. But it didn't happen. That patience really allowed Fletcher to find some nice moments and win the round, specifically the elbow that dropped Battle late. But then round 2 comes, and as soon as Bryan Battle finds the clinch, the fight changes. He is controlling Fletcher, landing some solid strikes, gets the takedown, and then just had a clear advantage once he was on top. And it seemed like Fletcher didn't want to move much and risk anything, and then as soon as he finally decided to move and try to make that push to get back to his feet, he ended up giving the back, and Battle found the choke pretty quickly. So Battle keeps rising. I said in the preview for this fight that it was an odd opponent. I'm hoping the next one is a bit higher up. I do think Battle deserves that, and he continues to look great.
Omar.
I really am enjoying the Bryan Battle journey here. It's such a good time. We are at officially the boy band version of Bryan Battle with the frosted tips. We've gone past the Super Saiyan Bryan Battle because it's not all blonde anymore. We went straight up 2000 Justin NSYNC vibes out there. So I appreciate it. And I thought it was a great match, man. I really enjoyed his control on the ground. I mean, AJ Fletcher's a strong dude. He's got those little T-Rex arms. And I thought Bryan Battle did a really great job controlling him on the ground. And finding success in a submission. Especially so close. I really didn't think that he was going to find anything with the way that they were rolling around, the way that AJ Fletcher was defending a lot of submission attempts that were happening. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's got his arm under the neck, and that was it. It was a really sneaky and a really, as far as I was concerned, really pretty dominant performance from Bryan Battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. All right, let's match up Bryan Battle, and then let's keep marching on. Omar, would you like to go first?
God damn, who do you give? I mean, you got to give him somebody legit, I think, at this point, right? At least to test him, at least to figure out where he's really at. I really wish I would have looked to see if these people were free. But I can tell you this. Tim Means recently just won a decent fight. It's not a bad scrap, man. And that's an established name. That's a real fight as far as I'm concerned. So let's go with that.
Mark?
That's not a bad idea at all. I like that one. I'm in a similar vein. I guess maybe I'm going a little bit higher. But I do think he deserves it. He's 5-1 in the UFC, and the only loss is to Renat Fakhretdinov, who so far looks like a freaking murderer. So I'm going to throw him in there with Chaos Williams and see what happens.
Nice. All right, let's move on. Okay, last one before we jump into our lightning round. My man Charles Air Jourdain gets the win. Round 1 submission over Ricardo Ramos. Let us discuss. Omar, go first.
Charles Jourdain looked great in this fight. I will say he sketched me out with that guillotine choke from side control. He held on to that way too long. Like, I feel like 85% of people that he would have fought at this point in his career would have definitely Von Flued his ass had his arm position been in there as long as it did. He's lucky he didn't get... I mean, it looked like he didn't know how to. He looked very lost in where that leverage was supposed to come from. Regardless, it didn't work out. Good for Charles Jourdain. And I will say it got real sneaky from there as well when it came to the ground game, man. I mean, he found success, found his back, and just snuck his way in there. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He found a guillotine and snuck his way in there twice, actually, from what I remember. Had the first one not... Did anybody see the balloons?
Well, yeah, what was it?
I didn't touch anything. I don't know.
I wonder if the viewers are going to see that. Balloons just went across all of our screens.
What?
Great.
Oh,
you didn't see it? It's fine. No worries. But the guillotine the second time, man, was really in there. But it was kind of a moment where you weren't sure how deep it really was, and you could see that Homeboy wasn't coming out of that guillotine and tapped. It was a good performance from Charles Jourdain. It was really dominant.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Yeah, this is kind of a strange fight to analyze. Like, we didn't get to see a whole lot of exchanges from these two, which obviously we were looking forward to. It hit the mat and shifted to the grappling pretty early. And then really the whole time, Charles Jourdain just kept searching for that neck. Even, as Omar said, in positions where it looked like he should have been bailing on the neck. He was just so intent on wrapping his arms around the neck. And then even so, despite how obviously he was hunting for it, he still catches Ricardo Ramos in a scramble and latches up the guillotine. So I don't know. It's just odd to me that a grappler as good as Ramos would get caught there when it's like that's the only thing Jourdain was looking for the whole time you were fighting him so far. So how are you not cognizant of that? So I don't know. I mean, weird one. Good on Jourdain, obviously, to get the tap, of course, and a big win for him.
Yeah, man. Let's stay with you, Mark, real quick. Give us a possible matchup for Mr. Charles Jourdain.
I don't see why we wouldn't make Charles Jourdain and Cub Swanson a reality. I mean, it's the fight that he asked for on the mic. Apparently, he's been calling for it for a little bit. And, yeah, I got no complaints. Let's do it.
Like it. Omar, thoughts before we jump into lightning?
That's a pretty big spot there for him. I mean, if we'll have that one out there. A reserved pick would be somebody like a Josh Coulibaugh and just kind of keep him in that area.
It's funny. That's actually that's the name I was going to say for Ramos. But I mean, they're all so close. It makes sense for Jourdain just as well, really. They're all in that little boat right there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into our lightning round. Finish up this UFC fight night. Here we go. Miles Johns, UD over Dan Argueta.
I forgot we had this lightning round still. Goddamn. Who's going
first?
Just a line. Oh, Mark, go. Talk.
For the first 3 minutes of this fight, it looked like we were going to be in for another Dan Argueta grappling exhibition. But Miles Johns weathered the early storm, and then he still had to, combat a lot of pressure and grappling attempts for the rest of the fight. But he did. He hung tough in the grappling. He reversed some positions. He kept Argueta off him for chunks of the fight here and there. And whenever he had that space, and we knew this going in, he had a distinct advantage in the striking in both technique and power. And he leaned on that. He landed big shots any chance he got. And, it was constant pressure from Argueta. So kudos to him on that. But Johns fought it right. Any chance he had an opening, any time to throw a right, any time to really plant and set up big power to make sure he was earning points on the scorecards, that's what he did. And he gutted out a W. So it was a solid performance from Miles Johns.
Do it.
Yeah, I do think it was a fun fight. I thought it was entertaining. I was just so distracted by the level of striking that they both had, frankly. I definitely think both of them have a lot of tightening up to do. There's so many holes, so many hands that were not up, that were down, that were allowing just all kinds of crazy shit to land. I mean, Miles Johns was throwing hooks from fucking one side of the country to the other. I mean, just a lot of little technical errors that, they might have some kind of close fight like this now, but the two of them have a real opportunity to get slept in later fights from what I saw. So other than the real competitiveness, I think between the two of them and the fun fight that it was, I think there's some real holes in their striking.
Okay, let's move on. Tim Means, round 3 TKO over Andre Fialho. Omar.
God, Andre Fialho is a dog, this guy. He's another one, man, this one, I don't think this one should have been stopped up until it did, but he was eating shit for a while. And some of those head kicks, man, that were quote unquote blocked, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You're still going to feel the force. It still rattles the brain. Your whole body feels it, frankly. It's not even just your head. It's the whole body that just radiates through you. So he was eating big, big shots. And credit to Tim Means, man, because he was in some trouble somewhere in that fight. But Tim Means is the dirty bird, man. He's not the one to trifle with. And got Fialho out of there, man. Great performance. Great fucking fight from the two of them, frankly.
Yeah, man. Mark?
Yeah, this one was a war the whole way through, and I know Fialho has lost a bunch lately, but you got to love that guy. He's an old school fighter. He is kill or be killed. He's not trying to win any decisions. And then on the other end, you have Tim Means, who had lost a few lately. He's getting older. Maybe people were starting to write him off a bit, thinking he might get knocked out here fighting a striker like Fialho. And instead, he comes in here, he eats some real big shots, and he fights a beautiful fight where he landed multiple different huge shots on Fialho. The knee in round 1, as an example, that he threw was friggin' gorgeous. And then, of course, the head kick late and a beautiful barrage afterward. Head shots, body shots, a knee. I mean, he had it all going in this fight. Great performance for Tim Means.
Yeah, man. Amen. Here we go. Muhammad Usman, UD over
Skip
Jake.
one.
Oh, my bad. Cody Brundage, round 1, DQ against Jacob Malkoun. Mark?
I mean, this one's on Jacob Malkoun, man. It sucks for him, but it's on him. It's your responsibility to be in control of your own weapons. He got warned a couple times that you could hear audibly on the broadcast, and then he just blasted Brundage in the back of the head with a forearm shot. So could Brundage have continued? Who knows? I hate to assume that. Watching part of you was like, can't this guy get up? But who knows? Maybe he was friggin' dying. I don't know. So he has a right to say that he didn't feel right after that, and that's what he did. And Jacob Malkoun was absolutely owning him in that fight, too. So it's got to be even tougher for Malkoun to take the fact that he threw that away, but that's what he did. He threw it away.
Omar?
Yeah, I mean, he was wildly deliberate in that fight. I mean, he took so much time. I mean, he was like just putting it there, aiming it, waiting to just throw all the power he had into it. It was not an accident. It was measured, deliberate, and really a nasty strike all in all. I just it gives you shades of Peter Yan and Aljo, right? I mean, it's a new year. The Oscar has to go to the next person, right? And I'm not giving him shit the way that I don't like to give shit to Aljo either, because it's like we've said before, and I've said it repeatedly. Peter Yan fucked that one up the same way that Malkoun fucked this one up.
Yeah.
But you can't help wondering how much of that did we really milk? You know what I mean? Just how much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just tough because you don't know what they're like. As much as it looked like he was right, like for all you know, his vision was spinning around. Like back of the head shots are dangerous. Like you don't know.
100%.
I don't know. Who knows?
Okay, here we go. Muhammad Usman, UD over Jake Collier. Omar.
God damn, I want to care more about this fucking fight. I don't, man. I was watching this fight and just trying to find something to give a shit about, and I really couldn't. And Usman doesn't have anything that really entertains me, man. His striking is not particularly amazing. His wrestling at best is mids. Like, he's got this like crazy man strength that I think helps him in his wrestling. But from like a technique perspective, just look at his brother. Usman is all technique for the most part. Or I'm sorry, that was really confusing. Kamaru Usman is all technique compared to the way that Muhammad Usman approaches his grappling and his wrestling. And I know that heavyweights have to work a little bit different and all that kind of stuff, but I am not entertained.
Mark.
This was typical of a Jay Collier fight. Like, while he's fresh, he does well, and he did well here. He hurt Usman a couple different times. He kept the pressure on him. But then his cardio kind of starts to fade as he gets, into the midway point of round 2. The output drops, and usually the next couple rounds don't go as well. And I do have to note that he toughed out a huge eye poke here that looked really bad. So maybe that played a hand in this fight changing as well, and not just the cardio. But either way, Usman really started to settle in and take over the fight. He won round 2 with his jab, pretty much. And then he won round 3 with his wrestling, got a huge takedown, and stayed on top. So that was enough for the W in this one. I agree. I don't think he's like setting the world on fire, but he is 3-0 in the UFC, and I'm not sure I even thought that was going to happen to start off. Now, he's not fighting anyone so great. Granted, we're kind of at that point now where next fight he has to fight someone that sort of matters.
Yeah.
So we will see.
Okay. Mizuki Inoue defeats Hannah Goldie by UD. Mark.
Mizuki Inoue is a really solid fighter. She's been out for quite a while, like 3 years, I think it was, dealing with some different injuries, so maybe people forget. But she has a quality, well-rounded game, and I wasn't sure what Goldie would have to potentially trouble her with, and the answer was really not much. Inoue dictated the fight. She won in every area. She won every round. So a nice return for her after a long time on the sidelines, and we'll see what we see from her when she's in there against a more quality opponent.
Omar.
I think this is a beautiful example of how much technique matters in a fight because, the stronger fighter, visibly especially, was Hannah Goldie in that fight, by far. Yeah, and sure. Inoue was just able to really use her grappling skills, her technique, to really not let that matter all too much and kind of use Hannah Goldie's strength and weight against her in a lot of certain areas. So I thought it was a beautiful fight. I love seeing technique like that. And Mizuki, her movement also should be noted. I thought her movement looked really good in that fight as well. So great fight from her.
Also, why is she just Mizuki? Like, who does she just get to decide that she doesn't have a second name anymore? She's just a one-name person?
I guess. I mean, you got a bunch of people like that over there in the UFC. Why not her?
Who else?
Sumertaji. And that's it. That's all I have for you.
No, but
There's
that's his name. Like, I think there's actually a space in Sumertaji. Like, is it not? Isn't that like two names?
No, there didn't look like there was a space there for me.
Yeah, like on Sherdog, it's written as Sue as one thing and Muderji as the other thing.
Oh, well, UFC.
Like, she just straight up dropped Inoue. I don't know. Like, it was very weird when he was reading the decision. He's like, the winner is Mizuki.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Anyway, let's continue.
Nice.
Lightning.
Last one, Montserrat Rendon split decision over Tamires Vidal. Omar.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Vidal. I generally don't care for people who feel like they need to get like crazy angry to win a fight, especially when they're not doing that much to begin with. I thought Rendon did a great job keeping her cool, keeping her composure, picking her from the outside, landing some good strikes from the outside. I had her winning that fight. I'm not sure how you had Vidal winning that fight personally, but I thought Rendon did enough to win 2 out of 3.
Mark, take us home.
Yeah, this was billed as a striker versus a grappler, and for the most part, that's what it boiled down to. Vidal was mostly able to keep Rendon off her in round 1, and she outstruck her to get off to a nice start. But then in round 2, Rendon got a little more comfortable on the feet. She was able to close the distance at times, and then even more so in round 3. And she took those 2 rounds, and honestly, she stood up better in the striking than it seems like most people thought she would. So nice nice debut from her overall, as my voice is just quitting on me.
That's it. We did it. Let's put a bow on this one.